Hello everyone and welcome to my 1000 subscribers celebration video. We're going to take a look at some GT Sport related things. We're going to do a Gt7 wish list. We'll do an update on how the CSL Elite steering wheel and pedals are working out for me and what I'd like to sort of do with the channel in the future. But first up, yes, we've hit that 1k subscriber mark. Wombleleader Racing 1.01k subscribers. So thank you very much out there to everyone who's hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it very much. The channel is fairly young. I've just been doing this about over a year, so it does feel like quite a milestone to get in that time period. I don't really do anything to push the channel, in all honesty. I don't do any of the social media stuff. The only thing I did do when the channel kicked off was post some of my videos onto GT Planet. So yeah, if you're out there and you've subscribed to the channel, then again, I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for getting me to this milestone. And hopefully I can get to some further milestones in the future. So yeah, what's next for the channel? Well, I've got a few things to do. As I said, I didn't really expect the channel to get very far, so I haven't really kind of put a whole lot of thought into it, whether I want to sort of really, as to how much I want this channel to grow. But in the meantime, I am going to keep doing what I've been doing with the sort of Daily Race C strategy guides. We'll do some race reviews, and I'll try and come up with some interesting topics and features for other videos, although it is getting a little bit harder to come up with some original stuff. So if you've got anything out there you'd maybe like me to cover, then please do leave a comment down below if any suggestions out there, maybe some of the subjects about the game you'd like me to cover. I would like to maybe move into doing some live streaming on the game. Not really got the tech to do it now. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to just do it through the PS4 initially. I could borrow my daughter's laptop when she's at school to sort of stream through there. If I was going to do any streaming, it would be a kind of a sort of late morning, early afternoon kind of shot. Maybe streaming some daily races, and possibly maybe just streaming, doing some testing for the FIA for maybe anybody who was interested in my thoughts going into those races. Looking a little bit further ahead, we have PlayStation 5 releasing at the end of the year. I believe it's going to be a sort of mid-November release date, and of course we've possibly got Gran Turismo 7 launching with it, or sometime early into 2021. So of course I'm going to be sort of heavily invested in that game, featuring it on the channel, and I'm quite looking forward to what sort of direction Polyphony Digital are going to take the game. Speaking of Gran Turismo 7, I'm going to kind of move on in this video. I'm going to give them a little bit of a wish list on what I would like to see in Gran Turismo 7 in the upcoming game. Now before we get there, I think it's important to remember that, you know, what Gran Turismo was all about. Now I've seen some other people putting suggestions out there, or I've watched live streams where people are putting their suggestions what they like the game, and to be honest with you, I think a lot of people are looking for Gran Turismo to move into the sort of more in-depth simulation market, and I just don't think that's where Gran Turismo sits as a game. I think its main strength as a game is its accessibility, so I do think it's definitely much more of a simulator than an arcade game, as some people like to call it. I honestly think I think about more things about racing in Gran Turismo than I do any other racing game in terms of tyre wear and brake balance and fuel consumption, things like that. So I do think it's quite an in-depth racing simulator, but as I said, it's very, very accessible. I think it's very easy for pad players and sort of a large kind of wide berth of talent or skill sets to kind of get into the game and play it at a competitive level, which I think is why when you go into a daily race you always feel like you've got someone to race. So I think Polyphony Digital are going to have to sort of keep all that in mind when they release the next game. So my top 5 things that I'm looking for in Gran Turismo 7 are about to come up, and let's move on to number 1. So number 1, full day-night weather system, full day-night weather transition, changeable weather, changeable times of day conditions. I think that is a must for the upcoming game. Now of course we do get various times of day conditions, and some tracks have recently had the wet weather added to them. Not as many as would have been nice to see. I think we've only got 3 tracks where we can race in the rain. It would have been nice of them to have maybe added that feature to a few more tracks as the sort of updates went on. But yeah, I think for Gran Turismo 7, I think it's almost a given that we will get this. I think it was kind of hinted at in the Gran Turismo 7 trailer at the PS5 reveal event. You may or may not have noticed I've attempted my own sort of weather transition in the background as the Supra goes round a lap of the A1 ring. Not the A1 ring, the Red Bull ring in Austria. Just using the various times of day and changeable weather conditions. Obviously they don't sort of transition in real time, but it kind of looks not too bad, I think you have to agree. Moving on to number 2 on my list, I am looking for a big upgrade in the artificial intelligence in Gran Turismo 7, both in terms of competitiveness and both in terms of behaviour. Now, the AI has never been a strength of any Gran Turismo game. They've always been too slow, very often don't really take into account the position of your car. They are a little bit better in GT Sport, and it is the odd combination where you can kind of almost get a competitive race out of them, but in general they're very, very, very poor. So the PS5 is going to have a massive upgrade in CPU capability compared to PS4, so the processing power is going to be there without a doubt for Polyphony Digital to work with. So I think this is something that has to be in the game. I just wanted to show this. This is a kind of an AI car going through the S's at Suzuka. You can just see the line is completely wrong, particularly this next corner up here where they go over this curb here, bump out and run wide. They do that every single lap in the game in Group 3, so it just goes to show that they're just not something that's taken seriously by the developers. They're very much an afterthought into the game, and just something, you know, I don't always want to just play online, sometimes I just want to jump into a single player game. And moving on to the single player game, number 3 on the list is a meaningful and engaging campaign. Now let's be fairly obvious, let's be fairly honest, most campaigns in racing games are rubbish. They're just a case of clicking through menus, going through a series of races, that then moves you on to the next series of races, that moves you on to the next series of races. There's not really any kind of story behind it, there's not any kind of real progression or meaningfulness to it. So hopefully Polyphony Digital for GT7 can come up with a campaign that actually means something to play, get engaged in, you're looking forward to getting to the next stage. My suggestion to them would be sort of to use the sort of format of like the Nations Cup, something like where you have to kind of compete in the Nations Cup at each continent, sort of go through something like local, regional, national championships. Once you've conquered each region, you then have to sort of compete like almost like a boss player. You know, you've got the guys from the World Tours. I'm pretty sure they would be quite happy to participate in some kind of thing to help them get the single player game together, and eventually it all comes together till you have to compete in the World Tour and then take on all the sort of top names that we see at the World Tour events. That's just something that I think could work out quite well for them. It could give you a kind of sort of knowing sort of campaign that would be worth playing. Moving on to number 4, they need to get the slipstream correct. Now, we've gone through quite a few iterations of the slipstream in the game. It went from 7 tenths to 1.5 seconds, then it reduced the strength, and then it reduced the distance back down to 7 tenths, but it then increased the strength. So at one point we've had the strength correct, and we've had the distance correct, but at no point in Gran Turismo Sport have we had the strength and the distance correct. So the strength that you can see on the left hand side there is what we need, and we need the distance of the slipstream to be around about that 7 to 8 tenths. Not what we've got at the moment. It's far too strong at the moment, and hopefully that's something they can create for the future game. Number 5 on the list is don't mess with sport mode too much. I'm a big fan of the way that sport mode works. I think the fact that the game's been running for 3 years and a lot of the players that first started playing the game are still playing the game. If you look at the sort of top split FIA lobbies, all the top players are still competing. I know that the daily races used to actually be daily races and they're now only weekly races. I think when we sort of move on to GT7, they can kind of do some refinements, maybe have some either the races changing more often or having more race events available, and kind of sort of try and cater to some of the other niches out there, or the kind of, you know, an endurance race, maybe a race that lasts for an hour and only goes on 3-4 times. So yeah, I think the basic format they've got with sport mode is very, very strong, and please don't mess too much with that for Gran Turismo 7 is my kind of wish. So that's my top 5 things that I'm looking for in Gran Turismo 7. So I wanted to sort of focus on sort of bigger fundamental changes to the game rather than kind of more intricate details that really come down to sort of personal preference more than anything else. For example, I've seen a few people suggesting things like bigger grids or fully manual rolling starts. I'm all for those if they want to put them into the game, then all well and good with me. I'm not going to say no to that, but I don't really think that ultimately changes how the game plays. And it could well sort of maybe take Gran Turismo away from its kind of sort of core audience, if you like. Like a manual roll and start, I think would be nice. I'd quite enjoy that, but I think, you know, there's quite a lot of not so serious players also play Gran Turismo and enjoy that more sort of accessibility than anything else. But of course, this is my personal opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion and what they want in the game. I think we're in for a bit of a treat anyway. I think Polyphony Digital certainly starting to listen a little bit more to their community, so it'll be interesting to see how that translates into the next game. The other thing I wanted to just sort of briefly mention was the Fanatec CSL Elite PS4 steering wheel and pedals that I've been using for around about the last month now. I did do a quick review not long after I got them. I'd only been using the pedals for a couple of days at that point. I'm starting to really appreciate the difference between the CSL Elite and the Logitech G29 a little bit more now. I did reset up my Logitech G29 just to compare it, and as I said, probably starting to appreciate there's a bigger difference between the two wheels than I maybe first relayed in that video. So in all fairness, just to be fair, I'm going to do a sort of follow-up video in the next few weeks covering that subject, just in absolute fairness to anyone who may be thinking of making the same change, and also to Fanatec themselves. But that's really going to be the end of this video. I'll go back to the subscriber count. Yeah, thank you very much to everyone out there again, once again, for hitting that subscribe button, get me to that 1k subscribers. Thank you very much for all the comments I get in my videos as well. People really do kind of engage with me, repeat commenters, same guys or girls who are there all the time saying thanks for the video and stuff like that, you know. So thank you very much for taking that time to do that. I do appreciate it, and I do my very best to reply to every comment as well. So yeah, thanks very much for getting us here, and on to 5k I suppose, on to 5k. So I'll leave you here on board with Womble Skipper and going into the last lap of the FIA Nations Cup round 1, the Bugatti Veyron around Lago Maggiore GP. Quite an interesting last lap, quite entertaining, so feel free to stick around and watch another couple of minutes of this video. But until the next one, once again, thank you very much out there to everyone who has got the Wombleleader Racing account to 1k, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.